We're back for part 3 of our interview with Homer Schomer. He's left Scientology and the Sea Organization, and he's going to talk about what happened afterwards. And he was involved in various litigation with Scientology and with David Miscavige, and we're going to go over that with him. Stay tuned. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our channel, Scientology Peeling the Onion. My name is Mark Fisher. I'm here with my co-host, Janice Gilliam-Grady. G'day, Janice.
G'day, Mark. G'day, everybody, and welcome back to Peeling the Onion. And how you doing, Mark?
I'm good. I'm good. You know, it's chilly here in Vegas, but, you know, we just carry on. Everything's good. So, you know, I'm really happy.
Good. And you continue to lose weight, huh?
Yeah. Like I said last time, I'm 54 pounds. I haven't weighed myself this week, so we'll see. But
okay.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling good and doing good, and it's a miracle.
Good. Well, I got on the scales the other day, and I hadn't since my cruise, and I got to go on a diet. So.
Well, why don't you tell everybody about, we've got Homer Schomer back here again, right?
Yeah, we do have Homer back. We've done 2 interviews already with Homer with great stories in there, you know, covering history starting back in the early 70s, coming all the way through, and his relationship with Hubbard and working on the ship, and then with Author Services. And so now we've got him back to tell us what happened after he left the Sea Organization. So let's bring on Homer.
Here we go. Here's Homer Schomer. Hi, Homer.
Hi, Homer.
Good to see you guys. Great on losing weight, Mark. That's fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. I mean, I'm the lowest I've been in almost 25 years. You know, it's great. I've got more to go, but I'm feeling good.
Good.
Yeah.
And I hey, don't you like that I put on?
Oh, marvelous.
You know, we're recording this a week before Thanksgiving, and the most viewed video on my Las Vegas Travel and More channel is a short I did last Thanksgiving of Janice taking the bacon off her turkey, and it's still, people are watching the bacon wrapped turkey coming up this next week.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I got to go back and get a turkey now and get some bacon. So
anyway, Homer, where we left off last time, you know, you just basically told the story about the abuse you got at Author Services from David Miscavige, Norman Starkey, the staff there, and then how you basically escaped and went to your sisters. And we're going to pick it up from there. You've got that to tell the rest of that story, and then we want to ask you about, you know, what happened afterwards in terms of your relationship with Scientology and all that.
Okay. Well, when it was like, I forget what day it was, but I was in the blue building and I was being sort of watched by 2 of the GEO members that were being COMEB'd from INT, or actually from GOWW over in San Diego.
It was Guardian's office, so people know.
The Guardian's office, yeah. Right. And they were 2 big guys. One was the head of the B1, and the other one was part of finance. And they both went off to a meeting to be part of their COMEB. And I saw an opportunity that I could get the hell out of there. And of course, prior to that, I had loaded up my car and had it stashed away someplace because it was sort of knowledge to them that I was going to be released and I could go, which really wasn't true. But they let me, you know, rent a trailer and everything. Anyway, they went to their COMEB, and I started, you know, putting the wheels into motion. And I got out of the blue building.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I was going to ask, you know, carry on with your thought, but I was going to ask you, what was your mindset in that at that time? Because I know there's a lot of turmoil after spending all this time in the Sea organization, like it was for me, I'm sure it was for Janice, is to,
Yeah.
what we're leaving. You know what I mean? I mean, what was it that pushed you over? I mean, obviously the abusive behavior and all that, but it must have been tough for you.
Well, it was very tough. Plus the fact that my daughter was still in, and she was part of author services as a liaison to the CMO, and I was leaving her behind, and I couldn't really tell her about it. And so that was one of the biggest things on my mind. Plus, I got to get out of here. And I had, resigned to the fact that, this wasn't for me. And it's like, everything was on a go basis. And so anyway, I went to my car, and everything was loaded up. And earlier that day, I had actually backed it up to the loading dock of the blue building and got everything loaded in. And I just took off. I forget how the next thing happened, but I actually went to visit Sue and Ron Anderson. Sue, what was her?
You're right.
Anyway,
Sue Anderson. Right.
Sue Anderson.
And Ron Anderson, who had both blown, and they were up in the mountains up by Big Bear. And I had told them I was going to, if I could come and visit them for a day or so, and they said, great. And so that's where I headed, and that's where I ended up there. Of course, when I got there, Kima was also there, and I'm not sure who else was there, but this was like right before Christmas. And I did have Christmas there with the Andersons and with Kima. And the day after Christmas, I took off for Boulder, Colorado, where my sister lived. And,
Homer, just so people know, when Kima was there, Mike Douglas would have also been there. And so people know Mike Douglas is the brother of Sue Anderson.
Oh. Correct.
And so that's
and then
why,
Janice, tell them who Michael and Kima Douglas were. Tell them who
Kima was the commanding officer of the household unit for Hubbard, and she had also been like his nurse. And Mike had handled Hubbard's accounting up until they left. They left in early 1980 from a location called X in Hemet, and they left in the middle of the night. And shortly after that was when Pat and Annie ended up leaving with Hubbard. And interestingly enough, when Kima left, Hubbard sent specifically orders that the Guardian's office was to leave Kima alone. They were not allowed to hunt her down and try and recover her. But but I just wanted to point out the reason that Kima would be there with Sue and Ron Anderson was because Kima's husband, Mike, was the brother of Sue Anderson.
Janice, do you think that he said not to go after Kima and Mike Douglas was because he knew that they knew everything about him because they'd been so close with him for so long that he just didn't want to have them cause any trouble for them? So
I'm pretty sure of it. But you know what? Kimmer told me this later on, and Kimmer had no money when she left. Mike had no money when they left. They went to the real estate agent who purchased MCI, the gold base for Scientology. They went to that realtor and stayed with him. But Kimmer had connections, and she had actually helped purchase for LRH different gems, rubies and pearls and things like that. And when she left, she knew that Hubbard didn't know how many there were. She took some with her so that she had some money to start her new life. But a lot of people didn't know that. Wow. And I don't think Hubbard knew that because he never counted how many Kimmer had purchased.
Right. Sorry. So back.
Anyway, I'm sorry, Homer.
Of course, I knew how much. I knew a dollar amount of the gems because that was on my big sheet that I sent up to Hubbard, every Thursday. But I didn't know exactly what the individual things were.
Right.
Homer, were they
You didn't
looking
know-
for you?
At that time, I'm not sure. I think it was too soon. That at that point.
And they didn't know where you went. They didn't know where you went.
No.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to recall. No, they didn't know where I went. So, of course, before, just digressing a little bit, I had a month before I had left also, and I had gone to Florida to visit my brother where my sister was, and but I had money that I had loaned to people back at the Flag Land Base, well, the Blue Building, and being that I, didn't have any money, I agreed to come back. And at that time, Terry and my daughter were on the telephone with me when I was in Florida to please come back and so forth. And then I went back, and then the episode where for a month I was in the Blue Building working with these two GO guys. But then the day before Christmas, I blew for good and spent the Christmas with the Andersons and Kima and Mike. I think Kima's mother might have also been there also, that she had picked her up.
Was this Christmas 1982?
No, this is Christmas of 1980.
1981. 80.
Or 80.
Okay.
I think it was 80. And then I took off with the car that I had recaptured and the trailer that I had rented, and went off to Boulder, Colorado. I forget how many days it took me, maybe 2 days. I might have stopped in Vegas or something. And I finally, made it to Boulder, Colorado, where my sister was. She knew I was coming because I was in comm with her. And I think I had mentioned before, I had made arrangements with her when the first time that I left, that if I didn't call her at 7:00 every day, she was supposed to notify the police that I was kidnapped. So they let me do that. So I was in communication with her. And then when I arrived in Boulder, it was, a happy reunion. And I was there for, probably 2 years, working with my brother-in-law, who was a lighting fixture salesman. And I lived with my sister and brother-in-law, and his two daughters lived nearby, and his son was going to school, which he later moved in about a year later. And, I used to travel around. His territory was like the 6 western states. So I would go into like New Mexico and Wyoming and Montana on a regular basis. And there was one time when I was sort of driving back, I think, and I got a call from Bill Franks. And he called me to warn me that there was some program or some thing going on that the GO or Scientology, the Action Bureau, had planned on trying to get this woman to come after me and, in a loving way, to try to do something, but be on the lookout. And it never happened. I was sorry it didn't happen, because I could have got something out of it, but it did not happen. And
did they contact you? Did they contact you at all when you were in Boulder? Like, were they trying to make sure?
I was
that
just about my daughter did contact me several times. And then lo and behold, one time, I don't remember the exact date, but Milt and Laura Wolf came out on a mission to Boulder to retrieve me. I was living in my sister's house. My sister and brother-in-law were off on a cruise, so I was there by myself. And of course, Milt and Laura were my best friends when I was in, and
Right.
I welcomed them into my sister's house, and Laura was checking me a little bit and doing some processes on me, which weren't really doing too good. And of course, they were, they were there for, God, I think over a week. In fact, the date around there was when the first Star Wars came out, because they were anxious to see that, and it came out in Boulder. So they actually took a day off and went to see the movie. But as I say, on a daily basis, they would come and try to convince me and do some auditing and this and that. And one day when they were there, all of a sudden I get a call, and the phone was upstairs. I was downstairs. I said, Milt, can you get the phone? He answered the phone, and it was Gerry Armstrong. I said, wait a minute, Milt, I'll get it, Anyway, I think Milt was listening in, and Armstrong was right in the middle of his lawsuit in Los Angeles. And he said that he had gotten his attorney, Mike Flynn, to include me in another or the same lawsuit, and that he wanted me to come into Los Angeles to partake in the lawsuit.
Janice, excuse me for a second. Explain to our viewers who Gerry Armstrong was or is.
Oh, Gerry was on the Apollo with us. He was the ship's representative. He dealt with all the locals, did a lot of public relations. He married my sister when we were on the ship. And then when we moved ashore to Florida, he started working in external communications at United Churches Extension, UCE, at King Arthur's Court, which I've talked about in other videos. So Gerry worked as the deputy external comm for Mike Douglas, who was married to Kimma Douglas. So, and I do know, and then later on, Gerry did a project going through L. Ron Hubbard's archives, and in there he found things that didn't match with what Hubbard was saying in his various lectures about himself.
Yeah, that was when they were doing the biography with Omar Garrison, right?
Yes. Omar Garrison was doing the biography, and Gerry was presenting him with information, and Laura Watson was also working on that project with Gerry, or she was LRH's public relations at the time. And anyway, so Gerry ended up in a lawsuit because the church was trying to get that information back. And Gerry happened to be best friends with Mike Douglas. And when the Guardian's office started doing ops on Gerry, that wound up Kimma. And Kimma was like, because Gerry's life was threatened. So during that lawsuit, which Homer will probably cover, the Kimma then, she was going to stay quiet, but when they started messing with Gerry's life, that's when she stepped into the courtroom and started speaking up, and that's how she ended up involved.
Yeah, and Gerry Armstrong, just so everybody knows, he left with a lot of these materials from Hubbard's archives to prove that what a lot of the things Hubbard said about himself were false. And of course, Miscavige and Broker and they didn't want any of that stuff coming out. So he was public enemy number one, big time. And of course, this is in the early 1980s. There was no internet, no cell phones or anything like that. So they came after him hard and heavy, trying to get that stuff back. And of course, Gerry then hooked up with Michael Flynn, was an attorney out of Boston who had represented other people like Tanya Burden, who sued Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard years before. And I guess Michael Flynn became Gerry's Armstrong's attorney. Is that right, Homer?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from this phone call, he was asking me if I would come to LA and become part of the lawsuit. And of course, I didn't know it, but I suspected that Milt was on the phone downstairs, which he was, and he heard all of this. And
Yeah.
I agreed that I would. And I was supposed to leave the next day to go to LA. Well, it turns out that Milt and Laura, reported all this back to their mission ops, and they went to LA the same time. They were on the same plane that I was, but I don't think we saw each other. I don't think so. And
What was your reason for getting involved with the lawsuit with Gerry and Kim and all that? What was your feelings on it?
Well, I was glad to have it done. First of all, I wanted to get back at them, some kind of retaliation. And second of all, I wanted to get some money also. And I think my lawsuit, I was suing for like $228 million. I'm not sure where Flynn got that particular amount from, but that was what it was. And as far as the reason for the lawsuit or the how it was spelled out, I really don't remember. It was like false promises, lying, which I guess are the same. Again, I was suing not only Hubbard, but Miscavige and Broker. And we got proof of service in that. I think I was the only one that ever got any kind of service on those three. And I was suing them only. I wasn't suing the church.
Right.
Which everybody else always served the church because of the fact that that's where the money was.
So
anyway,
how did you get service on Hubbard?
I think through Broker or through his representative.
Okay.
It wasn't a physical thing. I don't remember the details of it, but we did have service. So I thought I had a pretty good lawsuit going. Anyway, I went to LA. I met with Mike Flynn, and of course Flynn was out of Boston. And at that time, I think Gerry Armstrong was working for Flynn in Boston for his law firm, and he had a law firm in LA in Woodland Hills that was handling the LA paperwork and so forth.
What was Michael Flynn? What was he like? I've never heard anything about him other than what Scientology said about him.
Oh, he was a very charismatic guy and very genuine, and promising the world for you. And the law firm that represented us for him, as I'm not sure, a partner or whatever, was Contos and Bunch out of Woodland Hills, and that's who I had most of my contact with. And I know that when you mentioned about Gerry, he had a lot of PIs following him, doing all sorts of ops on him, dirty tricks, everything. And there was one. I was very lucky. For some reason, they left me alone. The only thing I can think of is that I knew where some of the money was buried and so forth.
You knew the money.
I was living in West LA, but I never knew of anybody following me or anything. But at one time, I forget what had happened, but Contos and Bunch called me up to their office, and they said that, do you have any home insurance? Do you have any liability insurance? And I says, why? What do you mean? He says, well, I think they're going to come after you. And if I was you, I wouldn't park your car near your apartment. I would keep your blinds drawn. And if you have any insurance that can handle any lawsuits back at you, like countersuits, I would start something happening. And of course, I didn't have any liability things except maybe for my car or whatever. And right. I did go back and I did park my car a block away, and I did draw the blinds, but nothing ever happened from that. And
were you working with your brother-in-law, the electrical stuff, and when you were in LA, or no?
No, that was only in Colorado. I mean, in his office. What
were you doing in Los Angeles? Were you working there too?
In LA, when I came back, I lived with an old friend of mine when I originally got into Scientology, which I won't remember. I won't mention the name. And they were living up in the San Carlos area. And I was actually, Alan Buchanan was living with us, and also Paulette Osley was her name at that time. She was living in the same apartment with this friend. And I was looking for a job. And Alan was working for a couple of geo guys that had bought a swap meet, and they were in the swap meet business. Plus, they were in the what do you call it? Some kind of money lending business, and a couple of high geo guys. If you mentioned them, I remember Henning Held,
Duke Snyder.
I'm not sure about Duke, but there was another one that was the head of the B1 group in
Whelan, Richard Whelan.
Charles Parcell.
I don't remember exactly, but
okay.
They were working for the same group that were old friends of mine, and they were ex-GO guys, and of course they were out. In fact, they were Milt Wolf's. One of them was Milt Wolf's brother, right? And which Milt never ever contacted his brother again.
And you just reminded me of something. During this time, you're suing Miscavige and Broker and whatever, right?
Hubbard, right.
So were these ex-Guardian's office people? Were they in good standing with Scientology, or were you guys all?
No, they were not.
And did you ever officially declare a suppressive person or anything at that time, or no?
I don't know. I never saw any paper that I was declared. They will probably say I was, but I never heard of it or have seen it.
Got it. Right. So these people you were dealing with, they were all people who used to be in Scientology and now were out.
Right.
Well, later on, they were in good standing because Henning Helt and Duke Snyder and Tom Reitzer were all working for that insurance company out of Los Angeles, and all were together in good standing. And when someone left the Sea Org but need to be kept an eye on, they had them working for them.
But they weren't. I don't think they were in good standing when they were working for the swap meet people.
Right. So they must have gotten back in good standing after they'd been with you guys at the swap meet.
Right. And when backtracking a little bit, when I first got into author services, we were in the old pubs building next to the blue building behind AOLA. And then we moved to a high-rise building on the 9th floor on Sunset Boulevard in Gower, I think, in Hollywood. And then when I left, I came back and I went to work in the swap meet, and their offices were right across the street. It was on Sunset Boulevard, directly across the street. And one time when I was there, giving them papers for my work in the swap meet, they got bombarded all of a sudden because they had a TV camera and stuff in their lobby, and they were on the second floor. And all of a sudden, Bill Wolf comes up to me and he says, "I think you got some visitors." And the TV camera showed, Mike Rinder, Norman Starkey, Greg Wilhair, and several others, and they start coming upstairs to get me. So I went down the back way and ran to my car and got a camera, came back, and I was taking pictures of them taking pictures of me, which was very funny.
Were they coming to see you to intimidate you? Is that
yeah, to intimidate me or whatever, Yeah. But they didn't really do anything. It was just a lot of talk, and I think I got them off guard when I was taking pictures of them.
Yeah, they've done that since then to Mike Rinder and Marty and all that stuff later. I wanted to mention one other thing that was going on during that time period, since you mentioned this, right? Harassment and stuff like that. Janice, you may remember this. I don't know if you do or not, but OSA, they set up a whole private investigator thing with Gene Ingram, where they had Mike Rinder pose as in good, he was Gerry Armstrong knew that Mike Rinder was in international management and the Commodore's Messenger Org and all that. And so they set up this whole thing where Mike Rinder contacted Gerry saying, "Hey, I'm a lawyer. I got a bunch of people inside Scientology management and we want to overthrow what's going on. We don't agree with what's going on, and we're loyalists." And so they became this whole thing of this loyalist, and they set up this whole video thing where Mike Rinder met with Gerry Armstrong, I guess in Griffith Park or some park, and of course they had a van with a camera, and it was all they had Mike all wired for sound, and they were getting Gerry to admit all these different things that they wanted him to admit so that they could use that in his lawsuit. And that was, I remember it because Miscavige came and bragged about it up at the Int base afterwards, and it was known as this big thing, that they got one over on Gerry Armstrong. So that's the type of thing that they would do and try and entrap people into saying things and doing things, the private investigators and OSA and all that. Anyway.
Right. But that was the only thing that I can remember that they ever really accosted me or gave me any trouble, which really wasn't very much trouble. Of course, I did have several, what do you call a meeting when the two opposing forces get together?
Deposition? Were they ever? You ever have a deposition?
Right.
You have deposition.
And being that I was suing Miscavige, which was one of my the people I was suing. We went face to face several times.
Oh, you mean your attorney actually deposed David Miscavige?
Right. Maybe that was where we got service on Miscavige.
I remember after I left Scientology, you can read them online, times that Miscavige was deposed and he was being totally ornery. Like they'd ask a question and he'd ask, "Well, what's the definition of this, definition of that," trying to just burn up time. But right. I guess that must have been involved with your lawsuit, because now if they ever got him in deposition today on all these other lawsuits, he fights it tooth and nail, because everybody knows so much about him and the things that he's done that he doesn't want to be, perjure himself,
Right.
Too many skeletons in that closet.
Right.
What was that like, Homer? What was that like when you were sitting in deposition and Miscavige is sitting across?
Well, it was pretty intimidating because, of course, he was not my direct boss, because Terry was my direct boss, but he was her boss, and he was over Author Services, and Author Services was over the church and the entity of the church, and Author Services was basically running, all the operations through LRH, which he really didn't do too much, and but it was we would have little tit tats, and there was one funny thing where maybe a month or so before, I had gotten a box that I put in maybe 10 or 15 pounds of bricks, and I boxed it up and I put a return label on it, which means that whoever got the box agreed to pay for the postage. I mean, I packaged it up with gloves. I put it in such a remote post office that, they wouldn't be able to come back to me. But yet at one of the depositions, Miscavige said, "Nice going, Homer. I really like that box of bricks you sent me." I said, "What do you mean, David? I don't know what you're talking about, But it was interesting how he knew, it wasn't, I don't know if it was addressed to him or just to the church, but it got back to him anyway,
Why'd you send bricks? I don't understand why you sent bricks.
Because it was a lot of weight that the church would have to pay for the postage. Like people that were out that keep getting mail from the church, they would put all the paraphernalia back in and send it back to them, in the return mail envelopes, to get back at the church. So
now typical things that they do, which has happened to us, is they had people come in and spy on us, who became quote unquote our friends, and then everything that we did and said was being reported back to OSA and Scientology. Did that happen to you?
No, not that I know of. As I say, I never remembered or anything of anybody following me, even though I was conscious of it, and always looking over my shoulder and always parking my car a block away after I was told that one time.
Right.
But never do I know that ever happened to me,
See, that's where I wouldn't have put it past those XGO guys for being part of the swap meet business with you guys, because they could then
keep an eye on you,
being friends and keep an eye on you, because I've actually known a Sea Org member from the ship who left years later, and he told me that he was undercover for 8 years working for the Guardian's office, reporting on Ernie Martin, who was a independent Scientologist or a squirrel. And so for 8 years, this guy pretended to be the enemy working at a squirrel organization, and he was reporting up to the Guardian's office, every week on this activity. And this was part of his amends to get back in good standing.
Yeah.
Well, I never knew that, but hearing what you're saying, I wouldn't doubt that would be the case.
It happened to us. We had no idea, and it's happened to, like the David Mayo, when he opened up his group up in Santa Barbara, Bob Midoff and his wife were sent in, and they were basically spies sending information. Nancy Maney, a bunch of people all did that because, I'm sure you were the same way we were, Homer. I'm sure you're the same way we were, which is we're very trusting of our old friends that were in the Sea Org and Scientology, because why would they hurt us? You know what I mean? That was my viewpoint on it.
Yeah, I don't know if the owners of the swap meet knew that, or still whether they knew that. In fact, I was asking them if I could work in the collection bureau that they had, and the one owner says, "You don't want to. That's the worst job in the world. You're calling people that don't have any money, and you're threatening them for getting their last dime. It's just a ruthless. You don't want to work there, And then they offered me. There was one other guy that left that was had a job that I took over, and of course, Alan Buchanan was working at one of the swap meets. They actually had two other ones that they ended up having. So I'll have to ask them next time I see them if they knew that was what could have been going on. But I don't know what information that could have been going on that these geo guys would know about. Except now that I think of it, well, I was thinking author services right across the street, but they wouldn't be spying on author services. So,
but the thing is that Miscavige wants to know, oh, what's in your trash? What's in your garbage? You know, what did he eat for dinner? I mean, he wants the minute details. I mean, he did that later to Pat Broker. He did it to us. You know what I mean? It's just great. You know, Mike Rinder, Marty, you know, it's the same pattern. They're doing the same stuff that they did for years under the Guardian's office in Hubbard, you know, and they just do the same thing. But that's okay. Hey, I was going to ask you, did Pat Broker ever have to get deposed?
He was not that I know of, but he did get served.
He got served with the suit. Yeah, I understand.
Right.
So then what happened? How did this all resolve? Or did you have more?
Well, you know, I appeared in the court cases, in Gerry Armstrong court case, and also in what was the other guy that got the $8 million that wrote a book?
Wollershiem?
Wollershiem. I was not a defendant, but a witness in the Wollershiem case too.
So you actually testified in court.
Right. Of course, he had another attorney. There was another attorney from L.A.
Charles something. Yeah, we interviewed him. We interviewed Larry.
But I had fun because there's this one attorney who was always asking me questions, and I would always sort of make fun of it, and I was always sort of laughing at, on the stand. But yet, I didn't want all the time. I was trying not to make any insinuations that would get my daughter into trouble. So, and I guess if I had known that things were as bad as they were, I would have done more when I could with her, because when I left, even when I was on the ship, we got regular liberties. We got, our leaves and time off and so forth. And I didn't know anything about the takeover as far as Miscavige. It wasn't of interest to me, and it was sort of happening behind the background. And when my daughter gave birth to my granddaughter, I found out about it, and I actually went to visit her when she was on a maternity leave, and she gave her maternity leave up in Sacramento, and actually brought her back after visiting her for several days to the Blue Building. And I would have never let her out of the car if I would have known that was happening, because I figured that she was married. Now she's got a kid. Things were fine. She wanted to stay in the Sea Org. And I just, it's hard to forgive myself that I didn't do anything, but I didn't know,
I understand.
No. Yeah. And she's been in there, since she was 10 years old. So that's a certain way of thinking.
And she's now 60, if you can imagine. Yeah. She's been in for 50 years, and my granddaughter has been in probably for 35 years.
Her whole life.
She was born and raised, in the church through all this shit,
Right. So I know what, it's like you're brainwashed. That's all you know. You don't know anything else. And it's scary on the outside. You don't know what you're going to do, how you're going to survive. You think, well, I had these friends, but they're now all suppressive persons. So I can't go to them because that's going to mess up my eternity. And I'm sure that goes through Valerie's head, because you don't want to get declared for leaving.
Right.
I actually saw Valerie later on when I was at the gift show in the convention center. I would go there regularly, And I was in one friend's booth at one time, and I'm just sitting there talking to this friend, and on comes Valerie walking down the aisle. And she said, and it was actually my birthday that day. And she says, "Hi, Homer, happy birthday." And I was really surprised. She only gave me about 5 minutes. I was trying to ask her questions, but, it wasn't anything that I could ask a lot of questions or get a lot of answers. And the next year I saw her again when I was walking around, and I showed her a picture of my now wife that I was engaged to. And she said, "Wow, she's younger than I am. My mother will be, younger than me, But everything seemed to be okay. I didn't know there was anything, going on that was different. That might have been before she was pregnant. I'm not quite sure.
Okay. So what was the resolution? You testified in these different cases and stuff like that, but eventually there was some settlement, right? Or the case is never finished?
Well, my case was sort of boxed in or compiled with 20 or so other cases that
Michael Flynn
was working on, that were part of his bailiwick, so to speak. And he was getting pressure from them, and he was, being tailed, and his dumpster in Boston was being gone through, and his life was, becoming miserable, and his family and so forth. And they convinced him to settle all these cases, of which mine was one of them. And
do you remember what year or what time frame this was?
I think it was 1987.
Okay, the year Hubbard.
So it was the year after Hubbard died.
Oh, that was Hubbard's death.
Was it before or after Hubbard died?
It must have. I don't remember.
I seem to think that it was before, because they were trying to get the all clear for Hubbard to come back, and so they decided we need to settle up all these lawsuits to get rid of them. I mean, that's my thought on it. Because once Hubbard died,
did they get the IRS okay before or after he died?
No,
that was after. That was in the 90s. Yeah. Oh, okay. But I remember DM always liked a good fight, and Mary Sue used to tell them, just settle the cases to get rid of them. But no, Dave wanted to keep going for the throat and battle it out in court.
Right. Well,
but the reason I say that is because Hubbard wanted to come back, and he was putting a lot of pressure on Pat Broker. Matter of fact, he barred Pat Broker from the ranch up at Creston because he wasn't getting the all clear that he needed. So that's probably why they decided we need to settle all these.
Right. Not the ranch in Tustin, the ranch in San Luis Obispo.
Creston. Creston, yeah.
Oh, Creston. Okay. My hearing is
that's
I get different words coming out of my brain here. But anyway, so it was finally settled, and it was up to Flynn to divvy up. I think the total amount of the thing was maybe $4 million. That the church gave him, and it was he divvied up who was to get what. I didn't agree with what I got. I figured that I had a good lawsuit because I had service on, Hubbard, Broker, and Miscavige. He said, "Fine, you can continue on with your lawsuit, but you're going to have to get another attorney." And I figured, it's better to have a what do they call it? A bird
in the hand's better than two in the bush.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I agreed to it, and I settled with it. I know that Armstrong got more than I got. I know Laurel got a pittance. Kima got a pittance. Eddie Walters got nothing, and I guess they were asked if the people that got some money if they would give him a part of their settlement. And as I say,
was Michael Flynn working on contingency? So basically, he got all of his fees. Like, you guys didn't have to come out of pocket. So he got all paid all his.
Right.
Yeah.
In fact, Contos and Bunch, when they were going to give me my check for my partner share of the settlement, were figuring out how much I owed them, and I said, "Wait a minute," and I pulled out my contract,
agreement,
which I had with Flynn, and it said I didn't have nothing, which surprised them, but tough luck, Charlie, and so I got whatever I got, and
that was it.
That was sort of it, and
what did you do after that? Like, this is the mid 80s. I mean,
well, at that time, I think I was living in West LA, and now I had a little bit of money. I was working for the swap meet, and I figured, well, maybe I can buy a house or something. So I went out house hunting, and I did find a place months later. Now, going back to the date of 87, that's when I bought my house in Manhattan, in Agora,
okay.
in
87.
In 87. So it was before that date that the settlement was,
Yeah.
And I did end up, buying that house, a little ranch, and I had Rancho Homero. And again, I it didn't have too much to do with the church at all, or what was going on. And that was about it, I forget when more of the shit hit the fan. It was much later, because your guys, like Mark, your guys, with everything happening, in the 2000s or the late 80s or 90s, with author service and so forth. I knew nothing about that. I knew nothing about Terry even going, leaving, Janice leaving, until there was that get together we had in Vegas, the first one that I attended at Terry's house. And
you didn't come to the 2000. You didn't come to the 2000 reunion we had at Huntington Beach that Laurel put on?
Oh, wait, I did go to that one. Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I don't remember too much about it. I remember, you were there, and Terry was there, and Armstrong was there, and Jim Din Kelsey was there.
Right. Otto was there.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess the one that I was thinking of was maybe the one with Kathy with Kathy. What's her last?
Kuriotaki.
Kuriotaki, yeah.
It was at your house.
Yeah, that's right.
Was that before or after the one at Terry's house? Yours.
That was before.
Yours was before, right?
Yeah, Terry did the big one, my 50th birthday at her house. You came to that one, and Kimmer was there. Alethea Taylor was there.
Right, and she was actually a plant.
She was a plant.
She was a spy. A plant is a spy. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, she was a spy at my birthday party to report on who all showed up.
Right, right. Yeah. She had talked to me a couple times. We had lunch together, but I knew nothing about, her goings on and whatever. And I guess Terry's wasn't that her birthday? They had the birthday thing at the hotel.
Yeah, that was Terry's 60th birthday and my dad's birthday that I put on for them at the hotel. Yeah.
Right.
And we had a private eye there too. Remember, Mark Headley saw him with a pen with a video.
Mark Headley chased him out, videoing the guy as he chased him out the door.
Yeah, I don't think I knew Mark Headley at that time. So
No.
he was just one of the people that were there. And then there was the one with when your father came and at the hotel.
Right.
Or was that was Terry's
That was the
birthday
same one.
party?
Yeah.
That
'cause
was
it his birthday too.
his birthday and Terry's birthday.
Right.
Yeah,
And Mo Samuels too, right?
yeah,
Who?
yeah. Because Terry and Mo Samuels.
Mo Samuels.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Because Terry
Yeah.
and Dad's birthday are only 9 days apart, so we did both together.
Right.
Yeah, and just for our viewers who are never in, there was no internet in the 1990s when we left. Nothing
That's
like
true.
cell phones or anything like that. So we really didn't reconnect to many people until the mid 2000s, except Janice, of course. You know, she was always the oracle who could snoop out where people were. So you snooped out a few of these people and had their phone numbers, and you were able to get a hold of them. But it wasn't until Mick Wenlock started up his ex-Sea Org group on Yahoo in the mid 90s, the mid 2000s, that we started reconnecting with a lot of people and started comparing stories and comparing notes. So that kind of kept everybody sort of separated, but then we all kind of reconnected after that.
Right. And Spanky too had a lot of connections. So
Yeah.
Yep.
So Homer, what are you doing these days? I mean, we're basically here at the end of the show, but tell everybody how you're doing, what you're up to, and all that.
nothing. Well, I was, I bought our place in Agora, my little Rancho Homero, in '87, and in 2018, in November, there was a big Wallesley fire that my house was part of, and it burned to the ground. And at that, I had gotten married to my Filipino wife, Mel, in like 2006.
Right.
And she was she became a U.S. citizen, and of course she was living with me at that time. And 2018 is when the fire happened. Of course, we had to leave. Of course, there was nothing left, and we were looking for another place for about a couple months, and we found a place in Simi Valley where I'm living now. And I'm not working. My wife isn't working, but we still enjoy life as best we can.
Right.
I'm still working, trying to get some kind of information from my daughter, and sort of pray however I pray to her and my granddaughter, are going to get out soon.
I know. Yeah, I've even put out feelers to try and find where Valerie is and how she's doing, and I don't really get much back.
Well, I met a couple of people. I forget their names. One was that wrote a book, and I met her for the first time at that picnic get together in Burbank.
Right.
And she told me she used to work with Valerie in uniforms.
Right.
And
you are
at the picnic, right.
With Mike Rinder and Ben Corridan.
Ben Corridan, right. And she said she had tried to get Valerie to go with her, but Valerie wouldn't. Now,
yeah, I think that was Nancy Maney.
When?
I think that was Nancy Maney.
No, it wasn't.
Wasn't Nancy?
Oh,
okay.
I heard the name.
Oh, Karen Presley.
Yes. But Valerie, wouldn't go. And then there was another one that I met at the hotel get together. I can't think of her name either. That she was good friends with Valerie, and they used to exercise together and so forth. And actually, I had talked to Valerie once. My sister has a number that she calls Valerie when I beg her to call her, to say hello. It's basically fair roads and good weather, because she won't ask Valerie any questions.
Right.
And I called my daughter Valerie one time, and I told her that I was this person that used to live across the street from us in Manhattan Beach, and I figured that she would know who that person was, and therefore maybe connect the two of us. And that, I said basically that I had talked to your father, or I talked to some. I don't know if I said to your father, maybe not, because I didn't want the association, but that you'd be well taken care of if you got out, and so you and your daughter and so forth. And she expressed that she wasn't interested. I didn't know, and I still don't know, if that was because there was no way that call was not being monitored, that I could,
Right.
Right.
So I don't know if she was protecting herself or what. But since then, I haven't heard from her. I tried to reach her once or twice, and as this other guy again. And my sister, I think, talked to her once about a year or two ago. But again, it was just a fair roads and good weather type. Maybe it was on her birthday or something. And
well, if any of our viewers have any contact with Valerie Schomer, Valerie Page, is she still Valerie
Page? And
Valerie Page, she's
or Alyssa.
Contact. You can contact Janice at this email address if you've got any information. We'll pass it on to Homer.
Be much appreciated. And she has a daughter, my granddaughter, Alyssa. I don't know if Alyssa goes by Page, because I heard she got married and it probably is divorced by now. But I don't even know. I think she's still at the Blue Building. And I think Valerie still has something to do with uniforms. But just like any kind of communication I could get to her,
Right.
To get it.
Also, if anyone can get a hold of Stanton Page, who was Valerie's husband and the father of Alyssa, he lives in Clearwater, and he is not associated with any, with the Fort Harrison, from what I could find. It looks like he's out of the Sea Org, living life in Clearwater. So if anyone can get a hold of him and get information, that would also be very helpful.
I got his number one time. I think it might have been from Aaron Smith Levin. Anyway, I wrote a letter to him, and I never heard back from him. And I tried to reach his mother in Sacramento, but the number has been disconnected. He used to have a sister in Clearwater, or not Clearwater, in Tampa, or maybe it was Clearwater, I'm not sure, in the suburbs. And but never heard back from any of them. So anything would be appreciated.
Right.
Okay.
That she
Homer,
would be. I was just going to say that she would be well taken care of and wouldn't have to worry, either her or her daughter, my granddaughter.
Right.
That's great. Well, we've reached the end of the show here, Homer. We've really enjoyed talking to you on these interviews. And we definitely would like to have you back if we have anything else to talk about, or if you've got anything else you want to share.
That would be great. It has to be, it'd have to be before 11 years from now, I'll be 100. So I'm getting up. I'm 89 now, so I'm getting up there.
Wow.
Wow.
89. Wow. You look great. Yeah. You look fantastic for 89. That's fantastic.
I feel great. I don't move as fast, but I do feel great. So it was great to be on the program.
Hopefully our next interview will be that Valerie is in touch and all is good.
Right.
Well, anyway, I wanted to thank everybody for watching. Please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Hit the like button, hit the notification button. We really appreciate it. Also, if you have any questions or comments, go down to the comment section, questions. We answer them, and we look forward to hearing from you. If you want to support our channel, you can buy us a coffee. There's a link in the description below, and we appreciate any support that we get from people buying us coffee. And also, we are running a special on our Connection merchandise on the merchandise store. You get a 10% discount on the merchandise through Christmas, and it's going to be running through Christmas. And we've got hoodies, we've got sweatshirts, T-shirts, coffee mugs, you name it. Anyway, 10% Christmas discount on all merchandise. The promo code at checkout is Christmas, and you'll get an automatic 10% discount. And we appreciate the support that you all give us at our channel. And hopefully Christmas is coming right around the corner, and to make great gifts for people, even if they aren't involved with Scientology. Janice, have you got anything else you want to say?
And hopefully we can have the best Christmas gift of all, and that is reconnection with family.
That's it. Yep. That's exactly right. Well, thank you for watching. Yeah. Thanks for watching, everybody. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.